Welcome back to the Go to Go podcast, man. Episode 73. Wild card weekend in the NFL. Right around the corner, man. Regular season wrapped up, as well as our pick'ems for the year. You take the crown once again this year. Two-time repeat champion. I'll give credit where credit's due, man. You got it. A little six win ahead. You went 170 and 100. I finished 164 and 106 on the year, man. So how does it feel to be a repeat champ, man?
It's what expected at this point, you feel me? So nothing out of the ordinary. This is what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, there you go. No humbleness. It's all right. We'll get right next year. I mean, just made some picks with my heart last week. I shouldn't have. I could have made it back. Anyways, man, this episode obviously got our NFL wildcard weekend picks, and then we kind of got like superlative awards we're going to break down. So we got most surprising, most disappointing, brightest offseason, and our least favorite team to watch this year, worst watch, we give the title to. And then I think next week we're going to jump into our award predictions for the NFL MVP, Coach of the Year, stuff like that. Starting us off, man, most surprising. Why don't you go ahead and get it started?
All right, for most surprising, this was there were a few very surprising teams this year. Teams a lot of people didn't really, see coming or having good of a season. But for me, the team I picked was the Rams, man. The LA Rams, I remember going into this year when we talked about, we did the schedule preview and stuff. It's everyone's writing off Stafford. He was coming off of injuries. Caleb Williams going to keep him in LA. They're going to be in the hunt for the pick. McVay, they were saying he's about to go retire, go be on TV. Mm-hmm. But, they had all this noise coming into the season. Cooper Kupp, he got banged up, was on IR to miss the beginning of the season. Well, none of that really mattered. People wrote him off, but Stafford, he came back fully healthy. Him, that offense got going. Kyren Williams had a very productive season in his second year, even though he was dealing with injuries. Still had, 1,000-yard rushing and was one of the most productive running backs in the league. And then, Puka Nacua, he's kind of, the whole reason this offense was able to keep going with some of those injuries. Had arguably the best rookie receiving. He got that record last week. You saw the video of him, McVay talking about get him off the field. So shows how important and how vital he is to that offense. And then McVay, just continuing to show he's an elite coach. And they snuck in. They got a playoff berth in that tough division where everyone, the Seahawks, the 49ers, two teams we thought coming into the season, they'd make the playoffs again. Well, the Rams were able to hang tight, beat the Seahawks twice, got the sweep. So defense was solid, a lot of young guys, but like I said, McVay showing he's an elite coach, scheming up some offense, and he got this team into the playoffs where a lot of people going into this year thought they were definitely going to be, a lottery pick.
Yeah, man, I had them 5-12 on the year. Preseason prediction, I think it was third in the West, man. So definitely exceeded expectations. They bounced back. Great year for the Rams so far into the playoffs. For a little Matthew Stafford redemption we'll get into in a little bit. My pick, I was kind of between two teams, but I'll give credit where credit is due, man. The Houston Texans, AFC South division winners. I had them in third place behind the 8-9 Titans, who I thought were going to get second. 6-11, first-year head coach DeMeco Ryan and C.J. Stroud, rookie quarterback. A lot of questions coming into the league. IQ, could he be a leader of a team? This and that with Stroud, and he proved, how vital he is to this team. He went down with that injury, missed a couple weeks, and you saw the impact he has on this team. Nico Collins has emerged as a receiver. Tank Dell, amazing rookie year before the injury. And that offense got going. Devin Singletary, the run game, even Dameon Pierce picked it up end of the season. And the Texans' defense has been viable. Ryan's defensive-minded head coach being a defensive player in the league. He's got them boys playing right now. And they clinched the South with the win last week in a nail-biter against the Colts. So I got to give it give it to the Houston Texans, man. Had them at 6-11. They finished with the division title, and last year, I mean, they finished 3-13-1, and that last win was the last week of the season that ended up giving them that number 2 pick that let Stroud come over. And they went ahead and got Will Anderson in the package as well. And, I mean, that team's really emerged. So hats off to the Texans, man. Next up, we got most disappointing season. Who's your pick?
Oh, this was very easy for me. I'm sure you know who I went with. I'm picking the Eagles, man. I mean, yeah, they finished 11-6, but this team, after, that Super Bowl loss, great performance offensively from Jalen Hurts. Defensively played solid, but, Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Regardless, coming into this offseason, you have a top 10 pick. You bring in Jalen Carter. You bring back those guys on the back end of the defense, Slay and Bradbury, both return. The only thing is you lose both of those coordinators, and that seemed to, have a lot more impact. Start off 10-1. You play, the gauntlet schedule. You win majority of those games. Kind of close, but you still beating a lot of good teams. But, just the collapse of this team after that San Francisco game. It's, finished the season 1-5. Some bad losses to the Giants. Almost lost to the Giants twice. The Cardinals come to Philadelphia and just dominate them. I mean, for a team that was, coming into the season, had hopes of, returning back to the Super Bowl, having, MVP candidate in Jalen Hurts on his team after that Super Bowl performance. This is definitely, I would say, a disappointment because at this point, yeah, they clinched the playoffs, but, I mean, they're literally playing their worst football of the season, basically limping into the playoffs with the injuries that happened last week. And, I mean, stagnant offense and bad play calling is always going to be an issue. Brian Johnson, not the best offensive coordinator, and that's, the big thing, around Philly and on social media and stuff. Everyone wants him gone, but to me, the defense has been the problem. I've been saying this the entire time, man, ever since, they played the Rams. I think, what was that, like week 6 or something, and Puka Nacua was lighting up our defense, and Stafford, they were moving up and down the field. Like, this defense, they're bottom in the league in passing yards. They've allowed the most first downs this season, and they ranked 26th in total defense. Like, that's just not a way to be successful in the NFL. And then you fire or you demote your defensive coordinator in the middle of the season. Bring in Matt Patricia. I was saying, that's not really going to do anything because that's not the problem with our defense. The problem is personnel when you're bringing in, aging Kevin Byard, who's solid, but, he shouldn't be a person you bring in. It's like the end-all, be-all. Shaq Leonard, the neck injury, he's been a shell of himself on the field. And defensively, it just looks like these guys aren't buying in. They can't stop anybody. And the Eagles look to be a first-round exit. And if they do somewhat beat the Bucs, we'll get into it. There's no way they win 2 playoff games. So, yeah, the Eagles, hot start to the season, high expectations coming in, but some injuries, but most of all just bad defense and bad coaching, I think, led to a very disappointing season.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want the Dolphins towards the end of the season. So I get where you're coming from with your team. My most disappointing, I got a little 2-team. I'll give the award officially to the Los Angeles Chargers, man. That was, Justin Herbert, your guy, coming in with this uber-talented team. Brian Staley, disappointment of a season. He gets let go in the middle of the season. I almost gave it to the Raiders, but they fired their head coach quicker than the Chargers, and they kind of bounced back at the end of the year. Chargers, I said the worst coach game was that Raiders-Chargers game where it really is who wanted to lose more, not win more. Injuries, of course, derailed them. You got an aging, wide receiving core between Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. Can't really stay healthy there. Austin Eckler, he's getting up there in age and running back. You had the guys on the defensive side of the ball. Bosa was banged up. Khalil Mack kind of had a resurgence of a season when it comes to an edge, double-digit sacks. I mean, it's tough for the Chargers. They're, AFC West kind of, front runners behind the Chiefs, and you really thought it was going to be a battle between Herbert and Mahomes come down the home stretch of the season. There was nothing for the Chargers all year. They looked lifeless after blowing a playoff lead like they did last year, and then going to miss the playoffs this year is definitely disappointing. And the team I got for runner-up is the guys that beat them last year in the playoffs, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Real quick, I mean, down the stretch, C.J. Stroud's out of the South, or out of the 2 weeks he missed in the AFC South, and then the Jags have that cushion, and they find a way to choke it. I'm not sure exactly what their record was down that home stretch, but atrocious meltdown. They play the Tennessee Titans, who are kind of moving forward. They already fired Mike Vrabel, and you find a way to lose the AFC South, and now you're planning on next season instead of playing in the playoffs. When you got T-Law, when you got Calvin Ridley coming back from that suspension, you expect that offense to be clicking on all cylinders. You can make excuses for injuries, but after the season I've watched and the amount of quarterbacks that went down and watching the Browns all year, injuries really can't be an excuse, and disappointment for sure for the Jags this year. It's going to push us to the brightest offseason. Who do you think right now has the brightest offseason heading into 2024?
Well, for me, the two teams I was stuck between, I'm going to touch on the one that I didn't pick first. I think the Patriots were up there. I think they definitely have a chance to have a bright offseason just due to the fact, they got that top draft pick. You're not too sure what's going on with Belichick. But, if there is a new regime, they come in, they get one of these elite draft picks. The defense has been solid all season. I mean, they were losing all of these games like 9-6, or it was like it's like 17-3. Yeah, like
losing.
Exactly. So they have a solid defense. It's just offensively they can get things turned around. But the team I picked for brightest offseason, piggybacking off of your most disappointing season, is the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, the reason they are, they have a chance to have a bright offseason is pretty much kind of stuff you talked about, which was so disappointing. And, thankfully they've gotten all of that stuff out. They got rid of Staley. They got in a new GM. And with Justin Herbert being one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league, I mean, this team is arguably, the number one spot for all of these names out there in terms of head coaches. Harbaugh, he just won the college championship. His name is being heavily rumored to return back to the league. He played in for the Chargers, has those West Coast connections, so that's obviously an option. Vrabel, you just touched on, he just got fired kind of out of nowhere from the Titans. He's a very well-respected head coach, and he can definitely come into the Chargers and bring some, toughness back to that team. Bill Belichick, that's the name that's been floating around. He's trying to chase that win record. If he kind of wants to go to a team where he doesn't have to fully rebuild and already have that, star quarterback, we already saw how good Belichick was when he had his quarterback in Tom Brady, arguably the best head coach quarterback connection of all time. So give him someone talented like Justin Herbert. That's, they can win some games there. And then, Ben Johnson from the Lions, offensive coordinator, that's a very popular name just to throw out there. With all that being said, it's going to be a very, very, open spot for head coach. And then throwing the top 5 pick into that already help Justin Herbert offensively. Maybe you trade up a couple spots to get, a Marvin Harrison Jr., or you draft a Malik Neighbors or Brock Bowers, bringing a very explosive weapon to help Herbert because, you tried that last year. Didn't really work out the best with Quentin Johnson, where you have a chance to get, more of a surefire pick here. And then into the division where every other team seemed to take a step back, going in, we thought this AFC West would be such a good division. Chiefs are nowhere near as good as they are last year. The Raiders are kind of in the same boat as the Chargers fired their head coach. And Russell Wilson, will he even be the quarterback? The Broncos got 70 points put up on them. So all of these teams kind of seem to be reeling, whereas the Chargers they have this opportunity to take a step forward. The only really issue or problem I could see going forward is the cap. Kind of have, a little cap trouble there with some aging players that are on some kind of big deal. So that'd be the only issue I see there. Other than that, you have your quarterback of the future. You have a solid O-line. You have some pieces on defense. Bringing a new GM, bringing a well-respected head coach, somebody that can win games, someone that can be creative on offense to help Justin Herbert, kind of reach that next step, because we all know he has talent, but I know you're on the side of, he doesn't win games, social media quarterback. We'll bring somebody in to kind of, get him past that social media quarterback barrier. Draft good this upcoming draft. You got a high pick, so you're going to be picking high in all of these rounds. So I think the Chargers definitely have a chance to have a bright future or a bright offseason coming up.
There's a lot of chances for Herbert this season to prove me wrong. Fourth quarter game-winning drive. He got his opportunities. Obviously, some credit to the coaching, but he had chances. He missed some big plays and obviously some big drops from his receivers.
And then injury.
A couple times, yeah.
It was definitely a down season for Herbert. Yeah, 100%.
There were some times where he could have proved me wrong and I didn't see anything from him, but yeah, I'm not mad at it.
Well, yeah. Well, that's why they have a disappointing season and then a bright offseason. There you go.
Yeah, my brightest offseason, man, I got to go with the Chicago Bears. Talking around the town. I mean,
it's the obvious pick.
Yeah, it's the safe route. I mean, Justin Fields, stellar ending to his season after, starting off slow, then getting banged up, coming back from injury. That's still the biggest question mark, obviously, for the Chicago Bears, what direction they want to move in. Quarterback, the good thing is, they have the 1-1. So if they want to move on, they get their pick of Caleb Williams if they want. So even if they decide to stay, man, do they decide to trade back, get another more draft capital, go back in the draft? Because they have the number 1 and the number 9 pick in the first round this year. So they got some ways they could go. And, I mean, Marvin Harrison in this draft, do they draft back, just a couple picks? Maybe get, a third, fourth rounder in return for the trade up to add some depth to this draft or maybe future capital. You never know, but the Bears are in a good position this offseason. Great way to go out to end the season with a couple dubs. I know they lost to Big Bro, the Green Bay Packers, in Week 18, but nothing new there. It's honestly, maybe, I know they probably said it last year, this might be the Bears' year next year in that NFC North, but it showed some life second half of the season, so you got to be happy if you're a Chicago fan right now with the way your offseason's looking. Now we got probably your favorite one. I think this is your category, the worst watch this season.
Yeah, well, for me, it's a team that, a couple weeks ago we vowed to never talk about, so I'll make this one very quick. Worst to watch is definitely, I think, the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, they have all the talent offensively. They had a decent defense, and really the only things they were missing were a QB and a play caller. I mean, when you have 3 top 10 picks on offense and they all feel underwhelming at the same time, that's clearly, it has to be coaching, scheme, and just not putting the guys in the right place. Desmond Ridder missed to turn the ball over in the red zone. Taylor Heineke pretty much is what he is at this point. Neither one of them were good at all. And like I mentioned, it just seems like personnel is misused, so that's why they got Arthur Smith out of there. Kind of, you can have your opinion on what happened at the end of the game, with the Saints and Jameis handing it off to Jamal Williams scoring that last touchdown. But
shout out J-Mo, man.
I mean, regardless of how you feel, it's just a very fitting way for Arthur Smith to go out. Walking on the field, yelling at Dennis Allen, just knowing he's about to be fired. All his emotions just rushed in at that very same moment. But this team could possibly be one of the brightest futures, which just shows you how bad this team was. Because if they get QB right and they bring in a solid head coach or play caller, I think this team could very well be competitive. And then it doesn't help that they were in the worst division of football. So if you were watching them, they were probably also playing another very bad team. So yeah, the Atlanta Falcons were the worst team to watch this season.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I kind of wanted to put the Chargers on the list. I'm giving them a break. Worst watch for me was, someone else in that division, the Carolina Panthers.
Like I mentioned,
worst division of football. I mean,
they were probably playing the Falcons, and it was a horrible game to watch.
It didn't matter who they played.
Yeah.
They got Bryce Young at quarterback, just not much help around him. Struggled. You got a couple pieces on the defensive line, but other than that, the back end is not really too great in Carolina. Linebacker court. You can nitpick everything on the Panthers roster, but they just did not play good football or where they coached well either. I mean, there was a lot of times where you'd be watching Red Zone and the Panthers got a chance maybe to put a game-winning drive together, which they didn't lead at all this season. Both their wins, last-second field goals. So they never had the lead at any point during regulation unless the clocks hit triple zeros. I just go back to one play during the season. I think it was 4th and 11. minute left in the game, and the Panthers go ahead and call wide receiver bubble screen. You're throwing it before the sticks, 12 yards or whatever it was. I mean, I just think there's something wrong with that team, and it was hard to watch them. They're up in that category between, I could have thrown the Raiders in there. They had a good second half of the season, showed some life, interim head coach. And then the Chargers, I mean, they were just disappointing. The Panthers one of the hardest to watch, and then you got, Temper pouring drinks on fans at the game.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not a good look. There's nothing good in Carolina. What was it, that one game they were selling tickets for 20-something cents?
Yeah. Oh, that was the Falcons game.
Oh, yeah, Panthers, Falcons.
Yeah.
I know it's horrible weather, but come on. Dog.
Regardless, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Literally the toughest watch of the season. Literally.
Yeah. Those two guys were part of the worst watch of the season in the game, and they were the toughest to watch throughout the season. So hopefully brighter days ahead for Carolina. But they probably have the dimmest offseason with their first-round pick being in the hands of the Chicago Bears. So, hey, Panthers fans, maybe just get a new head coach and pray something good happens, and you draft Luke Kuechly or something.
Or bring him back to run the team.
Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Anyways, man, it's going to lead us to our NFL wild card weekend, man. 6 games on the slate. Before we even jump into it, man, I want to shout out Peacock for being the exclusive Saturday night game. Don't know why NBC's doing this to us, but here we are, man. You got to get Peacock.
And just so you know, we just missed like the cutoff to watch the game. Like I think it's like I want to say like it's like some city in Broward, bro.
What, that they're showing it on cable?
They're in South. It's on cable. Yeah, I want to say it's like not like Hollandale, something like that.
Hollywood.
I think it's like Hollywood South can get the Dolphins game on cable.
It's tough, man. I mean,
so like 20 minutes south of us.
Yeah, I mean, we get all the Dolphins games locally all the time, but it's just crazy. We're only 55 minutes from the stadium. We can't even get the game.
Not even, yeah.
Bro, I'm saying, no traffic, you're flying, man. But, yeah, they're making all the Swifties pay to watch Taylor on Saturday night. I saw the little meme going around. I guess, bro, but come on. I'm not thrilled. I don't know what bars are going to have Peacock streaming and they can throw it on every TV, but hopefully they got unlimited users. I don't know, bro. We'll see. It's going to start off, though. That's the Saturday nightcap Dolphins Chiefs. Starting it off, man. I mean, I got either the best day of my life or the worst day of my life. Browns Texans starting it off 4:30 at NRG. Hopefully the roof's not leaking like it was last night in the college football playoff. But Browns-Texans, man, it's going to be a good one. I'll let you go ahead and, go first to break it down.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Browns in this one, man. And I think it just comes down to, that Browns defense, best in the league. You can argue Ravens, 49ers. I know you're going to rock with the Browns. But, I mean, Myles Garrett, arguably Defensive Player of the Year. I just think C.J. Stroud, him like going off and having a crazy game is literally the only way the Texans can win this game. It's going to come down to that. And I just think this Browns defense is going to be physical. You're missing Tank Dell, CJ Stroud's number one target. You can bottle up Nico Collins, who had a really big game against the Colts. The run game has, not been as effective. But if they're able to take away that deep shot, which I think, the Browns have done all season, they get to the quarterback. And Joe Flacco just has to go out there and continue to be Joe Flacco. He's going to give you a couple turnovers, but he's also going to push the ball downfield. They're going to be able to run the ball, and I just think this Browns defense will be a little too much for C.J. Stroud and that Texans offense. But if there's any way for the Texans to come through, you're gonna it's gonna be C.J. Stroud putting them on their back. But I just don't see that happening this week, and I think the Browns defense make a couple big plays here and there, and Joe Flacco does continues to do Joe Flacco things. Does enough to get the win here, and I like the Browns on the road. It should be a fun game, though.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was looking for the Jags to win the South, so I could go to Jacksonville to watch this game.
Yeah, and I think it would just be a better matchup. We already saw it, too, yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, we did see Browns-Texans, and we also did see Browns-Jags. T-Law was banged up in that game, and then of course C.J. Stroud didn't play when the Browns played the Texans either. So you kind of see them a little more healthy, without Tank Dell and whatnot. But I saw a little clip before the college football game yesterday when they were interviewing C.J. Stroud. Of course, they want to get him fired up, saying that the Browns have the best chance to beat the Ravens in the playoffs. And, C.J. Stroud was like, all right, cool, like adding a little chip on his shoulder. That's not what we need because, as you said, C.J. Stroud, he needs to go off for the Texans to win. And he's very capable, man. I mean, rookie quarterback, he went out there balled. Former Ohio State Buckeye, so I don't know if he wants to beat down Cleveland too bad, but shout out to C.J. Stroud, balled out all year. But I got the Browns, man, on the road, of course. Wouldn't expect me to pick anything else at this point. You mentioned the defense, MGs. Darius Smith started stepping it up back end of the season. I got to give credit to the guys up the middle because that was the Browns' weakness last year, stopping the run. They were in the back end of the league and stopping the run. And Dalvin Tomlinson and company, they've been able to change the line of scrimmage, push the line of scrimmage back into the backfield, really let those linebackers, and then JOK, he's at one point was the league leader in TFLs or zero-yard gain. Linebacker core has been stepped up tremendously from the Browns. And then the back end, I've been saying it all year, man, the best corner room in the league. I don't think anyone can change my mind. Denzel Ward, all-pro corner. Martin Emerson doesn't get the credit where he deserves. And Greg Newsome, who's turned into a slot guy, he can guard anyone all over the field, but he's emerged as a slot corner this year, stepping up and making big plays as well, getting a couple picks. And I think the Browns match up well, whether it's Emerson on Nico Collins because of the size matchup. I like that one-on-one all day. And the back end's really stepped up. Grant Delpit, breakout year. He got a contract extension. And then the rotating room with the safeties, Juan Thornhill, DeAnthony Bell, Ronnie Hickman, OSU alum playing out there. The defense been tremendous. Jim Schwartz, new D coordinator, he stepped up in a tremendous fashion and led this Browns defense to things that they were supposed to do for the past couple of years, and they just couldn't. They finally get the coordinator right, and you see what Jim Schwartz is doing. And you mentioned offense, man. Joe Flacco just got to do Joe Flacco things. I know he's going to make, 2 or 3 questionable throws that might result in turnovers, but he's also going to throw for 300 yards, and I'm not mad at it. David Njoku, breakout season. Shout out to him. At one point, I think he said once he stopped caring about stats and started caring about the team was this year, and he's had his best season yet, and he's now a Pro Bowler.
That has to be somewhat concerning, though, because this is what, like, he's been in the league for 6 years. Yeah, it took him this long to
he's had his ups and downs in Cleveland, man. He's requested trades. Browns fans have called for his head. Wow. And look at Njoku, man. And now my, favorite weapon offensively for the Browns.
It's that near-death experience, probably.
Oh, yeah, burn in the face. I mean, really puts in perspective life, I guess.
Guess so.
Shout out to him, big playmaker. Njoku gets him the ball, and if Cooper's out there, which he should be with that heel injury, he's just been a target for Joe. And Elijah Moore, he's stepped up in big fashion. And these guys are really picking up the slack. A lot of guys counting them out. I wanted to put them for most surprising team because if you told me at the beginning of the year, Nick Chubb, Deshaun Watson, both out for the season, I would have been with a lot of other guys at the time. Those injuries went down throughout the year that, the season could be done for. If you told me 4 different quarterbacks would have been starting 5 with Driscoll last week, I would have said pack it up. P.J. Walker would have been on the roster, pack it up. Those guys have each contributed, Walker, a couple wins, big against the 49ers that 1 week. And I'm just happy with the way this Browns team, win or lose, man.
Yeah, I think the outcome wouldn't be the most surprising, but I just think it's like how we got here. Because coming into the season, you were saying
high hopes, yeah.
Yeah, they were going to win the division, best team, this and that. And there was people that were, higher on the Browns as well. Like, they had the talent and stuff, but like you mentioned, man, to go through 4 legit starting quarterbacks, all of the injuries and everything, and still, have a 10-win season and be in this position to be one of the hottest teams going into the playoffs, I think that's definitely what is most surprising.
Yeah, lose both your starting tackles. I mean, Jack Conklin didn't even make it through week 1. So credit to those guys. This is why I don't make excuses for the next team we'll talk about. in this Dolphins Chiefs game, and with the Dolphins injuries because the way the Browns have stepped up this year. Who's your pick for the Peacock exclusive, man?
All I'm gonna say is, man, if you were going like if it was the beginning of the year and you were like, all right, we get Dolphins versus Chiefs in the first round of the playoffs
At Arrowhead.
That's like
Tyreek Hill returns.
I'd be telling you, okay, that's like, the game everyone must see, the best game of the wild card weekend. Whereas now going into this game, it's like the complete opposite. Like, I mean, this is tough, man. Both of these teams are kind of reeling, not playing their best football. The Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, I mean, no one on that team can catch a ball. Travis Kelce, it's looking like he's taking the step back. And offensively, they have really no run game whatsoever. The tackles have been up and down. And then pretty much their defense is what's carried him. And then even at the end of the season, the defense has been susceptible, haven't been playing the best. So Chiefs team definitely reeling. Home field advantage, though. They still have Patrick Mahomes, and they still have Andy Reid, two proven guys that, know how to win in the playoffs, have that championship pedigree. And then the Dolphins on the other side, man. You mentioned injuries. Some injuries might be a lot more to overcome than others, but I mean it's tough, man. They had a couple major injuries in that Bills game as well, and then Tua down the stretch. Just you would like to see him step up and be better. Hopefully Jalen Waddle will be back. Clearly they were missing him on offense. A-Chain, they got him going in the first half and then kind of just went away from him. Not really sure why, where he was like literally the only offense they had in the first half. So I think offensively the Dolphins are still, they're still okay, but, defense is where you have the big questions. Jalen Ramsey getting cooked by Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen just missing him. X, not sure if he's healthy or not. That defensive line, they literally had their pass rushers on special teams. Like, that's how depleted their defensive line and that pass rusher is, outside of Christian Wilkins making a big play here or there. I just think this is going to be a bad game. It's going to be just an ugly game in Arrowhead. I'm going to pick the Chiefs. I think Patrick Mahomes, as bad as his weapons are, he can do enough himself. Andy Reid, maybe cook up a play here or two there. That crowd's going to be rocking. You saw what Tua did at home. On the road, if they get down a score or two, it's just going to be tough to see that team rally. The Dolphins kind of like the Eagles, where they just falling off a little bit. And I just think the Chiefs at home, Patrick Mahomes pulls one crazy play out of his hat, scrambles for a 120-yard run at the end of the game, and gets them into field goal range. And maybe, that does it. But I like the Chiefs here at home against the Dolphins.
I think they're more similar than you give credit for. Because the Dolphins and the Eagles.
Oh no, yeah,
I think they're
similar,
same, in the same boat, man. But picking with heart, man, I'm gonna go with the Dolphins on the road quickly with that.
You better than me.
Yeah, that Bills game last week. You mentioned A-Chan just getting it going and looking like an absolute workhorse. Mike McDaniel, I like the little pitch stuff you do every once in a while, but can we just let Tua turn around and hand the ball off just on a regular, inside-outside zone or a little trap run or a counter? And it's nothing, man. It goes to those pitches, and if the defense penetrates in a pulling guard, they try to get the misdirection pitch, and I think they ran it the second time in a row, and the Bills were ready for it. I mean, the predictability of this offense is what's getting them killed. If it's not that deep in route from Tyreek Hill or like Jalen Waddle or RPO or go, those are the three plays they're running, and then it's a pitch to the running back. I mean, the predictability is insane. They need to figure out something, and they don't have a lot of time. And I got to see something with a team that looked so good. And I sat there and I was like, yeah, this is a lock for AFC contender. The first 8 weeks of the season, and just to get derailed like this and look like a whole different team. Offense certainly isn't there, and none of those guys practice either. Teron Armstead, X, Javon Holland, Deshaun Elliott. I don't think any of them played. I'm not sure about Waddle or practice. You lose Van Ginkel after, Jalen Phillips and in the injuries to Bradley Chubb and the rest of the defensive line certainly hurt the Dolphins. Jerome Baker out as well in that game against the Bills, as well as Van Ginkel. Injuries across the board, but defensively, Vic Fangio has been absolutely horrible. Not one adjustment made all season. Jalen Ramsey's, I know he got burnt by Diggs on that one play. He's the only guy that's really stepped up towards the back end with those guys being out besides the safety group. There's just no adjustments. They're leaving Kader Kohu to get cooked out there at this point. His downfall and decline this year is tremendous from last. It's not looking pretty. You mentioned the Chiefs. Just got to make one or two plays. Both these teams, I think, are in the same boat at this point in disappointment towards the back end of the season. It's going to be an interesting one. I think it's going to be like a 13 or 14-20 game. Whoever has the ball last maybe kicks a field goal, whatever it is. But I got to rock with the Fins, man. I saw McDaniel talking to the team. Shout out HBO. That's the only thing that fired me up. So I'm just riding with that until Saturday night. We'll see. Sunday kickoff, man. Steelers, Bills in Buffalo. Who's your pick?
I'm picking the Buffalo Bills here at home. I mean, we talked about this all season. Like, the Steelers are just gonna find a way to just end up in the playoffs. Like Mike Tomlin and these guys, like that's just what they do. They have horrible outings. You know, things just go against them, and then somehow miraculously the Steelers are in the playoffs and they're above 500. You got to give them some credit. You know, sticking with Mason Rudolph, him being the guy down the stretch, and then putting up some numbers offensively. That run game's got going, but I mean, you lose T.J. Watt, who's literally everything this Steelers team is. Like, they don't win games without him, so that's a tough blow. And you know, having him against this Bills team, he could legitimately like swing this game. You know, Josh Allen, he's gonna give you the full Josh Allen experience you saw in the game against Miami, and pretty much this entire season. Whereas he's gonna turn the ball over, he's gonna give the defense chances, and when you have somebody like T.J. Watt on the defensive side of the ball, who's known to create turnovers and capitalize on those chances, that's just a big play waiting to happen. So they're really going to miss him on the defensive side of the ball. I just think the Bills at home, Josh Allen makes one or two big plays. Maybe they get James Cook going offensively, get that run game going, just keep the Steelers defense on the field, tire them out. Offensively, not too sure what the Steelers are going to go for. Maybe try to run the ball, but I think they're just going to be down early, not going to be able to lean on that run game. They're going to have to throw it, and I'm going to take Josh Allen over Mason Rudolph in that. So, yeah, I just think the Bills at home, big winners last week because they could have been the ones heading into Kansas City, and I think would be in the same kind of position as the Dolphins. So, huge win for the Bills to get that number 2 seed, lock up his little home playoff stretch, maybe get a game or two at home, and definitely rather be playing the Steelers than the Chiefs in terms of Dolphins or the Bills. So, yeah, I like Buffalo here at home.
Well, if the Dolphins actually won the game, they would have been playing the Dolphins in Miami once again. Weird how the seeding works, strength of schedule, whatever it is. But the Dolphins-Bills would have matched up again. The Dolphins' best hope was for a tie. Then it would have ended up being the ones playing the Steelers, which kind of I was rooting for towards the end of the game, but it did not happen. If T.J. Watt was playing, might be a little bit different story, as you mentioned. Mason Rudolph, I don't know how many times I could say it. I almost put the Steelers for worst watch on the season, but I felt like that's just a little too much hate from me. If Josh Allen doesn't throw 4 picks, they should win this football game, which could very well happen. So we'll see about that.
He could throw 4 picks and they could still win too. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You just never know.
Give me the Bills, man. You pretty much covered it all. They also, up and down season for them. They're kind of in the same category as the Dolphins, Chiefs, Bills, Eagles. They're all in the same category in my opinion right now. Teams that they could put together a dangerous playoff run if they can all get it clicking starting this week, which all those teams can. We'll see which team decides to do it. Give me the Bills at home against the Steelers team who, once that Mike Tomlin record was on the line, them boys stepped up and once again made the playoffs somehow, some way. Next game up, man. Packers travel to Jerry's World to play the Cowboys in this matchup. Who you have here?
Another team who's just, greatly benefited from, being the number 2 seed, having these home playoff games, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, we saw throughout this season just completely different teams at home and on the road. But, I mean, this Packers team, Jordan Love's been playing some great football down the stretch. He's been balling out. Those young guys, receivers, stepping up. No Christian Watson, but all those other guys stepping up. Some explosive, nice receivers, playmakers on the outside. Aaron Jones getting to go a little bit. So offensively, I like what the Packers have. It's just defensively, although they stepped up and stopped Justin Fields last week, weeks prior where you see Tommy DeVito, Bryce Young, guys like this just lighting them up on the offensive side of the ball. So not something you really want to see. And then, like I mentioned, man, Dallas at home, they just don't lose. They're a different team. Dak and CeeDee Lamb, arguably the best connection in football right now. They're going. Tony Pollard in that run game, not really much to mention, but they don't need it when Dak has, Brandon Cooks and CeeDee Lamb balling the way they are. Those receivers are definitely stepping up, and at home defensively, they're going to make some big plays. Micah Parsons, Deron Bland, those guys create turnovers, get stops. So Packers, I think this has a chance to be a fun game, maybe a lot of points put up. Should be a fun competitive game, but Dallas at home, it's tough to pick against them at this point. So, yeah, I'm going to pick the Cowboys.
Yeah, I actually typed out Packers for my pick at first, and then I just realized, the Cowboys at home. Two different teams. If this was in Lambeau, man, I might lean towards the Pack for an upset.
You definitely got a game.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, going to be a good game, but I think the Cowboys pull away, and they should pull away with the season they've had, especially, being at home. They're not ready for their, typical Cowboys choke just yet. Wait till they get to the divisional round. Then we might see something of the sorts. But as of now, hats off to the Pack, man. Up and down season. Started off, looking like Jordan Love was the guy. Then there was questions, is he the guy? And I think he kind of silenced the doubters a little bit. Yeah. Silenced the doubters a little bit, man. You saw him put up, crazy games. Jaden Reed, you mentioned, young receivers, Romeo Dobbs. Those guys are stepping up on the outside, and they don't even have Christian Watson, who was their breakout guy last season. So, the future's bright with the Packers and their quarterback, man. Jair Alexander continues to be a national treasure. With his news clip, the Pack is back. I'm pulling for him, man. I know you are because you don't like the Cowboys, but I think they're a fun team to watch.
Yeah.
They're definitely one of those, sneaky or frisky but fun teams to watch in the NFL. And I just don't know if they have enough to get it done. Micah Parsons at home as well as a different beast coming off the edge. We'll see, man. But I got the Cowboys with the dub at Jerry's World. Next one up, man, it's all about the storyline for Wild Card Weekend. Rams-Lions in Detroit. Matthew Stafford homecoming. Who do you have?
I got Stafford getting his get back, man. I'm going to pick the Rams in this matchup, and this should definitely be a very good game. But honestly, I think these are two very, very similar teams, two high-powered offenses and two quarterbacks who, aren't going to blow you away with their playmaking, but can definitely get the ball out to their playmakers, have a solid run game, and then two, questionable defenses. So I think, in terms of points being put up, and if you want to watch some offensive football, this is definitely the game you should watch. I think it just really comes down to, at this point, Matthew Stafford or Jared Goff. And then you have Sean McVay, who has that experience with Jared Goff, knows what he likes, knows what he doesn't like. So, do we see Sean McVay putting on his defensive cap, kind of, flipping the script and trying to throw some things at Jared Goff that, he knows he has trouble having success with, being, the one that was there when he drafted him, coached with him, played in the Super Bowl with him. So two teams that know each other very well. Matthew Stafford coming back. It's going to be in the Dome. So, if you want to lean the Lions and Jared Goff, I wouldn't hate it. They have a home playoff game. It's their first home playoff game, I think, in, it's like 30 years or something like that. Some crazy number. But, yeah, this should definitely be a good game. I think it's going to be a close game. It could lean either way. I'm just going to take the experience of McVay and Stafford. A couple years ago they had that championship run. So I like the Rams here. They've been playing super, super good football. They got hot at the right time. So, yeah, this Rams team I think is dangerous, and I'm going to pick them here for the upset. So I'm rocking with the Rams.
I picked the Lions, man, but you almost talked me out of it. I'm just gonna stick with the pick, just for the fact. First off, Jared Goff being on the Rams, couldn't win a Super Bowl with them. McVay goes out and gets Stafford, wins the Super Bowl with them. So I think it's kind of, almost a shot in the face at Goff with his, skill set, whatever you want to call it. But the Rams, last time they were in the Super Bowl, man, they were struggling late in the game offensively. And Matthew Stafford said, I'm just going to give it to Cooper Kupp. I don't double coverage, whatever it was. That last drive, if you remember, he just diced up the defense, force-fed Cooper Kupp to go out there and win a Super Bowl. And I think the Rams struggle at some point in this game. That's what you'll see. And
it might not be Kupp. It might be Puka Nacua.
Yeah, now you got Puka.
Exactly.
And remember that Super Bowl, OBJ was having a crazy first half before he went down and tore his ACL, which kind of left, the Rams with only Cooper Kupp. But now they got Puka, Kyron Williams as well, better running back in the backfield. I'm not even sure who was out there in the running back. It was
Cam Akers, Sony Michel.
Yeah, like Sony Michel probably. Somebody Cam Akers. Regardless of the fact, man, a much better running back in the backfield. I think it's going to be a great game, man. I honestly would say game of the week right here. Just storyline, everything that's going into it. The Lions, though, I'm going to go with them. I think the up and down season they've had, with the struggles on the defensive side of the ball, you lose Chauncey Gardner at one point in the year, and the defense really hasn't been able to step up outside Aiden Hutchinson. I think the Lions got a real shot. Amon-Ra snubbed from the Pro Bowl, in my opinion. They've been clicking all year with Jared Goff. Laporta, I know Puka's got his own rookie record. So does Sam Laporta.
Who I think he went down with injury. I think.
Is he out? Yeah.
He might. Well, I'm not sure if he's playing, but I know he got banged up last game. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a good game. And then you got Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery duo. We'll see what the run game looks like for the Lions, but I don't think it really matters home game or not. I think it's just good that Lions fans get able to see a home game outside shot for Laporta, so they could be down a key weapon offensively. We'll see. I got the Lions at home. Coin flip, in my opinion. I think this is as close as a game as you could get right now on paper. And that's going to lead us into the Monday night game. Raymond James Stadium, Eagles-Bucks. You're Philadelphia Eagles, man, and I'll let you go ahead and get the ball rolling.
So, if you would have went into the playoffs and told me all the NFC teams that were making the playoffs and were like, the Eagles have to play the Bucks, I would say this is the one team that I legitimately think we have a chance of beating. How they finished that last game against the Panthers, I don't think they got into the end zone, just kicking field goals. Yeah, Baker's banged up. But prior to that, Baker was slinging the ball. Mike Evans was getting going. Chris Godwin was looking solid. Defensively, they've been okay. But I'm going to pick the Buccaneers, man. As much as this Eagles team, I love the Eagles, want to root for them. I hope the Eagles win. I just don't think they do. Ever since that Seahawks game, man, I've kind of been over this Eagles season at this point. It's just been downhill from there. So, Baker's been banged up, and this Bucs offense hasn't looked as good in maybe the past couple weeks. But listen, if there's ever a time to turn it around, it's going to be against this Eagles defense. So, I'm not who's going to guard Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Those guys are just going to be open all game. Rashad White's going to be able to run the ball on us, and then it's just going to come down to, that offense and how many times we're going to run QB draw. A.J. Brown, he's banged up. Smitty got banged up. They should be good to go this week, but, still dealing with lingering injuries. Jalen Hurts, you saw he dislocated his finger. So, it's just tough. The Eagles are literally in the worst position they could possibly be, playing against a team who, out of all the teams in the playoffs, like I said, I think they have the best chance to beat this Bucs team. Unfortunately, I just think it's been that kind of season, man. The Bucs, I just think at this point are a better team, better coached, have better players, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So, barring some crazy scheme change or defensive adjustment, guys just playing better than they have all season, I don't really see a way the Eagles win this game. So, I'm going to pick the Bucs to win, but of course I'm going to be rooting for the Eagles, man.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt, it's not the time for a scheme switch. But like I said, man, they're in the same boat as the Dolphins. So if there's any time to change, it'd be right now. And that injury that hurts with the dislocated finger, you saw how nasty it was. It doesn't help the Eagles' case at all. A.J. Brown with that injury. And you mentioned a quarterback draw, wide receiver screen, whatever they want to do, trying to get 30-some-year-old Julio involved in the offense. It's just it is bad from the top down. And you know this team's talented in the Super Bowl last year, you know, a flag away from winning it. And you're in this spot after going 10-1, and it really is just a letdown over there in Philly. So I'm gonna rock with the Bucs, man. Baker Mayfield, he's gonna get his second career playoff win. Should be third, but he's gonna get another playoff win. This time, finally playing at home. Did it in the COVID year on a Steelers field, but I think the Eagles really realistically should win this game, and this is the easiest opponent you could have in the NFC right now. So if they win, I'm not surprised. It really is. The Bucs are on a decline too, like you mentioned. 3 field goals against the Panthers. Can't put up points. Baker's banged up as well for the Bucs, and then defensively, you know, they got like Antoine Winfield, and that's it. So outside of that, they're not rocking with much either. Just kind of, yeah. This is the Monday night game. This is the only game we get to watch on Monday night. So.
Mm-hmm. Like, I think legitimately, like, any other AFC team blows this Eagles team out the water. Like, the Packers, you see how Jordan Love is playing? Like, he's going to have 400 yards. The Cowboys at home, we already saw what happened when that Eagles team went to go play at Dallas. They got blown out of the water. The Rams, I mean, Stafford, Puka Nacua just set the rookie receiving record, and they put up a bunch of yards against us early on in the season. Now we're banged up, not playing as good as we were early on in the year. Stafford's going to have a field day with his defense. Kyron Williams could run all over them. I mean, the Lions offensively, Jared Goff is going to look like Matthew Stafford back in Detroit. Like, I mean, the list goes on
the outside.
Yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to put up some crazy numbers. But yeah, this Bucs team I think is, funny enough, literally the only team we actually have a legit shot of beating. But I mean, still, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, I'm not sure who's going to be guarding them. Keely Ringo and Eli Riggs, I don't think so.
And then I think Reed out too, right? He got banged up.
No, Reed, Sidney Brown tore his ACL. Yeah,
Sidney Brown's the one that tore his ACL.
I mean, he's solid. He's a promising rookie, so you know injury sucks. But I mean, he's not covering much. He wasn't, you know, a great cover safety.
Yeah,
like him and Reed,
he's a box.
More of, you know, solid tackles coming down, making plays. Like, yeah, it's just tough, man. They need a reset.
Yeah, man, it's going to wrap up our NFL wildcard weekend pick'ems, man. Heading into the divisional round next week, we'll see how we did with these picks, man. Any last, you know, comments, takes, anything like that?
No, I pretty much covered everything, man. Excited to watch some playoff football.
Same here, man. We'll get into it next week with the recap of the games and picks, of course. Goal to Go on YouTube, like, comment. Sub, hit that share button. Goal to Go Pod, TikTok, like, comment, share on that too, man. And until next week, man, we'll have the NFL divisional playoff round. Peace.